Today I just wanted to share a piece of my collection with you guys. Something I consider to be one of my most prized possessions. As a collector, horror movie nerd, I know everyone out there has like pieces in their collection that they consider to be their like most prized possession, their holy grail kind of thing. And for me, that item is my Machete, signed by every killer in the Friday the 13th movies. Friday the 13th is my favorite of the big horror franchises. You know, I much prefer kind of like the independent horrors or one-off horrors for sure. But Friday the 13th holds a special place in my heart because it's kind of what introduced me to horror movies to begin with, that and Phantasm. I just remember growing up and my uncles showing me all the movies. They all had them on VHS. And now over the years, God, I've watched these each thousands and thousands of times. I've got books on the movies. I've got all the movies on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray 2 times over, action figures. I've got toys. I've got planners. I've got every poster from every movie. T-shirts. Skateboard decks, for God's sakes. Now that's for a whole nother video. One day I'd like me and Vicky on a Friday the 13th to maybe do a live stream where we break down each of these movies or go one by one and just talk about them, rank them. But we'll get to that at a later date just because I have way too much to say about these movies and I'd rather give it a lot more thought than just making a short little video about like, I like this one, I don't like this one. I like all of them, by the way, even the shitty ones. All of these collectibles and things that I have from Friday the 13th amount to nothing in comparison to the Machete that has taken me years and years and years to get signed by all the killers of the franchise. Now, I've met other actors from the films like, you know, Adrian King, Amy Steele, Larry Zerner, Shelley, who gave Jason his mask, and Teddy, and God, you name it. But I always do my best to seek out the people who played Jason or Pamela Voorhees, you know? That, to me, is just a little bit more important than the side characters, but that's just me. I think in hindsight, it probably would have been a wiser choice to get a hockey mask signed by all the people who played Jason, just because these conventions and stuff don't let you bring real weapons into these kinds of situations anymore, which is, believe me, I completely understand. And a mask, obviously, you could just go right in with it, but the Machete, these days, I've kind of had to sneak it in and like hide it in a big backpack, but it's kind of what fell into my lap, you know. I started getting it signed. I'm not going to switch over now, especially at this point. Now, how I got started on this thing is I got gifted a Machete for, I think it was my birthday, that was signed by Kane Hodder. And I had never been to a convention or anything before, so I was like, oh, that's awesome. I love Kane Hodder. I love the Jason movies. As I got older and realized conventions were a thing, I just started bringing this thing along to get signed by all the characters, which is obviously taken a very long time. Later on, when I would actually meet Kane Hodder, he looked at his signature on there and he goes, yeah, like, I signed that really good. I don't think I want to sign it again. And I was like, great. So I had him sign some other toys and stuff like that. So the first convention I ever went to was a Monster Mania, I think back in like 2008, 2009, and it was a Friday the 13th reunion. Like a lot of the killers, a lot of the victims, a lot of the final girls were there, but the main person I wanted to meet there, first convention ever, I got lucky as all hell. I got to meet Betsy Palmer. Obviously Pamela Voorhees from the first film. She wrote Killer Mommy Killer. She was wearing the turtleneck sweater just like she did in the movie, and I'll never forget it. She was the first person I had ever met, and she just, come over here, come take a picture with me, and she just gave me a big hug, and I was really happy she signed just the backside of the Machete, because it's like, yeah, you're way too important to sign alongside the rest of these people. You're the one who started it all. And yeah, rest in peace, Betsy Palmer. Love that. Also from the first film, Ari Lehman, Jason 1. Obviously, Ari was like a kid in the first Friday the 13th movie, but there he was, a creature made by Tom Savini to come popping out of the lake at the end. And yeah, Ari Lehman is a really sweet guy. He parties pretty hard, and his band First Jasons, how clever of him, is actually pretty good. They play good music, and I've heard some wild party stories about that guy. Friday the 13th, Part 2. So, for that one, there was a bit of a snafu. You know, there was two people who played Jason. We have Steve Dash, rest in peace. And right below him, Warrington Gillette. Now, I met Steve Dash at my first convention, and it was so long ago that picture is just lost. And I met him and his wife, and they were just so sweet. They just gave me a big hug. They're like, "Oh, your first convention," and signed my Machete, and God, I wish I still had that picture. And it took me a really long time to meet Warrington Gillette. He finally popped up at a chiller not too long ago. And yeah, he's a really nice guy. He's a lot bigger than I thought he would be. But yeah, the two guys who played Jason in Friday the 13th too. Both pretty sweet guys. Rest in peace, Steve Dash. Next we have what probably some people's favorite Jason, Richard Brooker from Friday the 13th Part 3. Now, he was a really intimidating guy. Obviously, he has passed on now, rest in peace. But he was another one I met at my first convention, and my picture is fucking lost to the sands of time. But he was tall, but he wasn't as hulking as he is as Jason in Part 3. But a really sweet guy. Signed the Machete. He also gave me a free, like, 8x10 of him, like, at that time, I think, like, 2008, 2009. Looking into a mirror, and the mirror looking back was him as Jason, which was really cool. But really sweet guy, just super, super intimidating. Ted White from Friday the 13th Part 4. Some people's favorite Jason. He's definitely up there for me. I don't know if I could really nail it down who my favorite is, but he was great as Jason in the final chapter. My wife and I went up to him. He was like 95 when we met him at a Monster Mania, probably about 5 or 6 years back, and huge dude, but he just gave my wife a big hug, like, just a really sweet guy. All I said was, like, thank you so much for what you did. You were an amazing guy, amazing actor. I was really upset when he passed away, just because he was just like a really sweet old man, and he certainly played one of the best Jasons of all time. Mr. Ted White. Rest in peace, man. And then next up, we have Imposter Jason from Friday the 13th, A New Beginning. Now, I met Tom Morga. He is the stuntman who plays Jason in the movie. One of the only people I haven't met was actually from Part 5, and that's Dick Weend. He's the guy who plays Roy, who is the killer that's dressing up as Jason to kill all these people. But I did meet Tom Morga. Hopefully one day I can meet Dick Weend and finish this thing off. Maybe I'll have him sign the handle since he's Imposter Jason. And also from Part 5, I haven't met Johnny Hawk. I think John Hawk or something like that. He's the guy who dresses up as Jason in the dream sequence. But Tom Morga, sweet guy. Also played Michael Myers, doubling for George Wilbur in Halloween 4, which is really cool. Really nice guy. All the men who have played Jason have been really sweet, which is cool. C.J. Graham, who played Jason in Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Probably my favorite Friday the 13th movie, honestly. Just great movie. And his Jason, the first, like, essentially zombie Jason, is just so big and awesome and, like, has, like, the utility belt. He is a really, really gigantic guy and a really, like, intimidatingly handsome guy, even in his older age. I've met him a few times now. One time when I took my wife to meet him, we brought a figure that had some dust on it because it had been sitting on our wall for a while. And he jokingly said, "Well, who does the dusting at your house?" And my wife just, like, snarled at him, which was really, really funny. But he just laughed. And yeah, C.J. Graham, Jason from Part 6. And next up, Jason himself, Mr. Kane fucking Hodder. Now, like I said, when I got this as a gift, it was Kane Hodder had already signed it. And when I showed him this, he laughed. He's like, the signature is just too good. He's like, you leave it, I'll sign something else for you. So I had him sign some toys and some 8x10s. He even signed a picture of himself from Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood, with like the weed whacker for my friend's wedding, and he wrote, "Have a killer wedding," which is really nice of him. I do miss the days when he used to pick you up by the neck and choke you. I don't know why, call me a glutton for punishment, but I always thought it made the pictures really funny and cool. But great guy. He is one who you can meet anywhere. He does the convention circuit all over the place. His lines are always usually pretty long, but he is a sweet guy, and he'll talk to you for as long as you want. He obviously played Jason in Part 7, The New Blood. Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Jason Goes to Hell. Jason X. And sadly, he didn't get to play him in Freddy vs. Jason, but it's hard to deny that this man is Jason Voorhees, so you gotta have Kane Hodder on there. Ken Kurtzinger. Oh, there he is right there. From Freddy vs. Jason. He is another gigantic man. Really sweet guy. He also was in Friday the 13th, Jason Takes Manhattan. He's the guy working at the diner that Jason throws into the glass. He obviously got to play Jason later on when he's battling Freddy because they wanted a big, menacing, huge, hulking Jason, which this dude is gigantic still to this day. I felt bad when I was meeting him because me and the wife had just waited in like a 4.5-hour line to meet John Carpenter prior. So when we went up to him, I didn't really have much to say. I was just like, hey man, like, Freddy vs. Jason was awesome. Great moment in my childhood, man. He's okay. And my Machete was already so filled with signatures that like he had to like barely squeak it on there. But Ken Kurtzinger, man. Fucking great guy. Pretty cool Jason as well. Lastly, for now, of course, because, you know, we've got the TV show coming, probably have a new movie coming eventually. Derek Mears from the 2009 remake. He was another one who was at the very first convention I went to. The remake had just come out, and I loved his performance as Jason Voorhees. He was it, you know? Like, he was big, he was, you know, hulking, brooding, scary. Like, they made Jason super scary again. And he was so nice, so sweet. Told me how much he loved playing Jason, and like I felt so bad for the guy because it's just like he'll never get to play Jason again. When I did meet him, he had just gotten done filming Predators, which had not come out yet, and he was super excited that he was playing a Predator, and we all know that movie flopped as well, but I kind of like Predators. But Derek Mears, man, really funny guy, really sweet guy if you get a chance to meet him. They did like a Q&A with the cast of the remake at that convention, and some guy had asked him, is like, hey, does Jason not like White Ranger? Which, you know, if you're a nerd and in the movie when the guy's listening to Motoran, that band is White Ranger. And then obviously Jason slices the fuck out of that dude and kills him. But he laughed and told a great story. Just thought I'd share something I consider to be a prized possession of mine. It's taken me a long time to get this thing signed. A long time to figure out where all these people are going to be. I wish I had all the pictures of me meeting them, but I'm still so happy to have this. Don't mind the string, it's just like kind of how I display it. I hang it from like a little fishing line so you don't see it. The only people I really need to meet, well, want to meet, like I'd love to meet Dick Weyand, I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but Roy from Friday the 13th 5, I have to have him on here. He's like the main one that I would like to get. Johnny Hawk, who played Dream Jason in Part 5. I'd like to meet Dan Bradley as well. He's the guy in Part 6 who, when they first started filming the movie, he's in the paintball scene, and Jason's kind of looks a little chubby. And the studio was like, no way, we need a new Jason, and then they hired CJ Graham. But Dan Bradley is the Jason in that scene when they're shooting him with the paintballs. The only other guy I think I'm aware of is Doug Tate. He played Jason at the end of Freddy vs. Jason when Jason is walking out of the lake holding Freddy's head. It's a very short scene, but he is Jason in that scene, so I would like to add him to this as well. But that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Do you guys have any, like, prized possessions? I'm sure you do. Or, like, just collectibles that just mean the world to you? Let me know in the comments down below. Have you met, like, a ton of people who played Jason or met a bunch of people from the Friday the 13th movies? I'd love to know. They're all great people. Great to meet. One day, Vicky and I will definitely do, like, a huge retrospective on Friday the 13th when we have the time. Review, like, kind of like a ranking, things like that. Just, I love the movie so much. Like, if it's one series I collect the most of, it's definitely Friday the 13th. And one day we'll get there when we have time, but I just wanted to share this with you guys. I thought maybe people out there would really appreciate it and like it, and maybe have similar stories that I do. And anyway, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. You guys stay well. Love you for checking out this video, and adios.